You know, the first time I went into the delivery suite, you know, it was during my orientation week or induction week when I was being taken around the world, showing me this is delivery suite. I was like, no, this is not possible. How can this be the delivery suite? I was being told this is the delivery suite. I was like, how? How am I not hearing screams, shouting and all? And they were like, oh, majority of the women are on epidural. Guys, this is real. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Succinct Juby, and in today's video I will be talking about the differences between midwifery practice in Nigeria and midwifery practice in the UK. Without much ado, grab a seat, get a popcorn, and let's dive straight into the video. I started practicing as a midwife in December 2015, which was, you know, the midwife service came. So I would say my midwifery journey began from December 2015. So from December 2015 till October 2021 that I relocated to the UK, I have practiced more as a midwife. Although along the line, I went back to school and then go back into work, and then I practiced majorly as a midwife, okay? So I think that's like a long time to really say I have experienced, you know, I've been in the midwifery practice and I know how it is in Nigeria, right? This is also coupled with the clinical postings, the community postings I went through, you know, I passed through as a student, right? So I think I'm able to say some things about midwifery practice in Nigeria. And then having spent 8 months as a midwife in the UK, I think I'm in a position to make comparison between practicing in both countries. Number one difference I have noticed is in the UK, you are never alone. Guys, you are never alone. No matter your years of experience, you still got a support. You got the obstetric team every time on ground. You're never alone. Even as a community midwife, you're meant to be with your woman at home, right? Whenever you're taking deliveries or something. But still, you are not alone. You got a second midwife, you got your MCA, everything is just on point. People know what they have to do. You get the right support at the right time. Guys, I don't know if I'm to say I'm disappointed to tell you that my first work experience in Nigeria, which was the midwifery service scheme, immediately I started work, I was alone. Yeah, you heard me. I was alone because it was expected of me that having been in school for 3 years with series of clinical placements, community postings, you should be able to stand on your own. So I was basically alone. There are times I encountered difficulty, you know, while taking delivery, you know, and I was just alone. I just had to use my discretion in some cases. You've been taught in school, fine. But then there are some cases that you meet at the point of delivery and you're like, oh my God, what is this? Here in the UK, even as a midwife in delivery suite, you know, even while at the point of delivering a baby, you could still call for help for a second midwife. You could call for support. So, you know, going to work and knowing you've got support is something that can actually motivate you to go to work, right? Even if you're a community midwife, once anything is getting out of hand and you ring the ward, the midwife, the senior midwife for coordination on duty for that day, gets you support as soon as you can. In matter of minutes, I'm not saying hours, in matter of minutes. So you've got support. My second point is litigation. So now, because you're never alone, you've got support, you escalate as soon as you can, things are really not expected to go wrong. I know some situations are beyond control, but then when these things still happen, it's been investigated. For instance, maternal deaths or neonatal deaths, when they happen, everything is brought to book. What you did, what you didn't do. The family involved do not really have to fight it. They don't have to drag you to court. They don't have to call for a case. Automatically, it is being investigated. Why did this happen? Why did this go wrong, right? At the end of the day, if you are found guilty or if the staff of your trust is found guilty, most of the time, because you were never alone, it's so difficult to charge you and say this is the midwife who didn't care enough for this woman and then they sentence you. No, it's not done that way. Although you have the litigation is quite common, but then you're not really being treated as a culprit, because there's a whole lot of teams. The teams are involved. Rather, they deal with the trust as a whole. And that is where we hear of court verdicts, sanctioning some trusts for things or cases that have happened 19 or 15 years ago, saying due to a mismanagement of a labor, this child ended up with disability. The child might be 20 years at that time. This is because a birth record in the UK is kept valid and kept for 25 years. So anything you want to drag, any case you want to bring to light within that 25 years is very, very valid. Okay? This is not to say an individual or a midwife or any birth attendant that has been found really guilty beyond reasonable doubt would not face, the court of law for whatever he or she has done, but to a very large extent, because you're never alone. It's quite rare for a midwife to be singled out for the mismanagement of a particular case. It has to be a whole team. It has to be about the whole team and in turn the trusts. Okay, although litigation also happened in Nigeria, but then because to a very large extent you haven't even got the necessary support in the first place. It is believed that you've done what you can do. You have tried to manage the delivery process as much as you can. So if anything goes wrong, even the families, they do not really think about, oh, let's take this case to court, except you have been found guilty or you have been seen negligent about the things you should have done. Okay, so it's not so common. It's not so common, except the families are saying they want to do this. They are getting to the root of this. It's not really something that we do randomly. Anything that happens is not so investigated. There are a lot of issues facing us at work. Now, this is not to say that midwives working in Nigeria or midwifery practice in Nigeria does not take into cognizance the outcome or evaluate the outcome of care of a lady. To a large extent, I think it's because we are spiritual people, in quotes, in Nigeria, and then we attach a lot of spirituality to things. So even when bad things happen in delivery, while delivering or in labor, you just say, oh, this is what God wants. It happens this way. Some people will even say it's their village people, But then here, there's something like village people. Yeah, you must fight the cause. They fight the cause. They get every fact they need to know. Everything you did, you should have done that you didn't do, or even the things that you did that you overdid, even the things that you did that didn't work out as planned. They bring everything to book. So if the woman herself is not pushing, does not really feel whatever went wrong should be investigated health-wise, concerning the care she got, no one is really going to do that. Okay, so it's not because no one is bothered about what has happened to you, but it is just what it is. Okay, my third point is practicality. Guys, let's not even go into midwifery proper now. Let's just go to general, medical practice. Guys, the first time I saw a tourniquet was here in the UK. A tourniquet is like an elastic band, that thing that is being tied around your limbs, especially your arm to get your vein. That thing, that is the tourniquet. The first time I saw a tourniquet was in the UK. And when they said tourniquet, and I was like, oh, I was so eager to see what the tourniquet was. And then when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is just a rubber. A rubber, guys. Why can't we not have this in Nigeria? Although I know some hospitals have tourniquet, right? When I'm talking about, this comparison, just note that I'm comparing the government-owned hospital in Nigeria to the government-owned hospital in the UK, which is the NHS, right? So, things as basic as tourniquet is just a rubber. It's just a rubber. It's not that bad. It's not that difficult to find. So it was so funny to me when I saw, oh, this is tourniquet. Oh, you can imagine. Interesting thing now is that you're being taught and you're seeing it. Oh, this is real. This is actually practicable. It's not just about, oh, let me just read about it. And it really makes learning interesting when you read about something or when you've been taught about something and you get to practice it. Then my fourth point is paid management. Guys, the UK does not want any woman to be in pain in labor. The UK wants every woman to have a painless labor. The first time I went into the delivery suite, it was during my orientation week or induction week when I was being taken around the world, showing me this is delivery suite. I was like, no, this is not possible. How can this be the delivery suite? I was being told this is the delivery suite. I was like, how am I not hearing screams, shouting and all? And they were like, oh, majority of the women are on epidural. Guys, this is real. So women could actually have a painless labor. And I resolved, if I'm going to have a baby again, guys, I'm not going through that pain again. And then my fifth point is equipment. I remember when I was in the community, one of my community placements back in Nigeria as a 200 level student, or should I say year 2 student, whatever you call it, okay? I remember being in a community that has a mini theater, and we've got some equipment in that theater. Guys, aside from the fact that there were no skilled personnel who could use the equipment, another issue was the source of power. We were constantly on generator. We were constantly running the generator. You know what that is, right? I remember that in that community, we've got so many equipment covered in dust because there were no skilled personnel to use them. Even though those ones who know how to use them were not really around, they are not always available to teach other people how to use them. But here in the UK, hardly will you see an equipment lying just around, being redundant without being used. No, every equipment is being used, and you can see, you learn how to use all this sophisticated equipment. A lot of equipment, and you're like, oh, so this works like this. One very important equipment in this UK that we use in delivery is the CTG machine. In the last hospital I worked in Nigeria before relocating, it's quite a big hospital in Abuja, in the heart of Abuja actually. And then we use the CTG, but then the midwives, we do not really get to use the CTG. I, as a new midwife then, I was not allowed to use the CTG. Only the doctors or some trained midwives used the CTG. But here, it's almost like a norm. You use it for pregnant women here, especially high-risk women. And guys, I'm not going to lie, there is this confidence that comes when you know that the equipment you learn about in textbooks, you actually get to use it. You know how it works, you know when to use it. It's just so bliss. The last one, which is actually like in the middle, it's a kind of similarity and is also a difference, okay? And I will explain what I mean by that. It can be a difference in the practice between both countries, and it can also be a kind of similarity, and that is autonomy. In both places, we've got autonomy. Midwives got autonomy. You could make prescriptions. In some situations, you could prescribe certain medication. You could take decision about your woman without involving the entire team. You use your discretion. You use your discretion and say, okay, this is what is best for my woman right now. This is what I want to do. In the UK, there are certain decisions you are not meant to take, right? Fine, you've got the autonomy, but then because there is a policy, there is a guideline, there's a trust. Each trust has their own guideline, and midwifery generally, NMC UK, they've got their own guidelines. There are some things you cannot make decisions for. You just have to involve your team. You have to involve the obstetrician, the pediatrician, before you take certain decisions, right? To an extent, you haven't got that full autonomy. Yeah, even as a community midwife, you're in the community with other women, you still need to make certain referral, you still need to, involve certain judgments of other professionals, right? But in Nigeria, because most of the time, like I said earlier, you're alone. Especially when you work in a community like the first place I work, you are alone. So you have to take a lot of decisions. You do a lot of things. You know a lot of procedures. Let me give an example. Tongue tie. When a baby has a tongue tie, as a midwife, even if you're not in the community, if you work in a government-owned hospital, you know what to do when a baby has a tongue tie. You know what to do. You don't need to wait for the entire team decision, because you're alone. You've got no team, so you've got to make a decision for yourself. You and obviously the family, the woman and her family, you decide together without involving the whole team, right? So for instance, I got a baby here in the UK who's got tongue tie, and I was like, okay, tongue tie is just tongue tie, we can do it. We know what to do about it. And I was told, no, you have to make a referral for tongue tie. I was like, are you kidding me? Tongue tie? Make a referral for tongue tie? So guys, back in Nigeria, you know what to do about tongue tie. Another thing is, in Nigeria, you could make a decision to augment a labor, like to speed up a labor. You could make the decision, oh, I want this labor is not progressing like I want, let's augment this labor. But here in the UK, you have to wait for your reg. That's the doctor. You have to wait for them, the obstetrician, to make that decision. You cannot just jump into it because you've got autonomy. Okay, so despite the autonomy, I think Nigeria has way more range of autonomy than in the UK. And you can, you know why this is so. Because in the first place, you're alone. So of course, you're going to get a higher range, a wider range of autonomy than your counterpart in the UK. So guys, if you're watching this video now and you've noticed any differences, in midwifery practice, wherever you are, in UK, in Nigeria, in Canada, Australia, or in the US, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your differences are, if I am right, or if you've got an addition or subtraction. These are my opinions. These are what I have observed. And note again, when I'm making this comparison, it's between the government-owned hospital in the UK and the government-owned hospital in Nigeria. Okay, if you watched this video to this point, thank you for keeping on to the end. And this brings us to the end of the video. Do subscribe so you can get much more valuable content from me. Bye.